George Kilpatrick Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people we feel good about. So we celebrate the positive achievements of African Americans from all walks of life. So we have this Asian woman on the show right now because she's somebody we feel good about. I thought she would appreciate me doing that because she knows what the show is about. And she's been here way from the beginning when pretty much in the early stages, Linda, you were right there watching me do it and have been a great supporter.
You were still new inspiration.
Exactly, right there. Now I'm just inspiration. So Linda is a pal. She's a great friend, mentor. She can write her socks off. And she has written yet another book called Secret Syracuse, a guide to the weird, the wonderful, and obscure. And so she's gonna give us a tease as to what's in this book. This book came out in the fall of 2023?
Book came out in October 1st of
2023.
23.
So
hard to say that now because we're in 2024,
we are.
The clock moves and you move with it. Yeah. But I feel bad because I kept lobbying them for, let's see if we can get it up. There. Can you see it?
Right there. Here we go.
I tried to get them to add famous because then I could write about my friend GK.
How about that? Hey,
add famous because there was only one entry that was worthy.
There you go. So let's start with, so this week we had totality in the cues. How did you eclipse?
I eclipsed on my daughter's back deck. She sits on the border between Syracuse and DeWitt. And I saw that in various places, people did get enough of a break in the clouds to see totality, but I did not.
Yeah. And it's interesting because
where did you eclipse?
I went to Thornton Park.
You did.
I wanted to be up high. And so many other people wanted to do that. And it was fun, but it was very cloudy. Good friend Butch and Carol Charles, they sat on their lawn and Butch got a great shot of totality, a really, really good shot of the complete thing. I was too afraid to look up at the thing without the glasses. I didn't want to go blind. But my daughter was telling me I could have looked in totality, but the darkness was really, really cool. I thought that was and it was also interesting because being in community with the other folks, they were like really excited. Whenever the sun came out, people would cheer, and then you get a little glimpse of, the cloud break, and then it would go away, and then there would be a little break. And if you didn't catch it at that moment, you would have missed it. So you pretty much had to. But it was really, I thought, given that COVID for many of us was great separation, to me, this was wonderful to bring people together from all different, every walk of life, from different languages, different cultures. Everybody was there for the once in a lifetime moment. Now, I was saying to my daughter, you can go to South America next year, because I saw a post on Facebook. Frank O'Connor was saying that they're trying to collect, if you don't need your glasses, there's some place where you can send them, and then they will send them to South America so people can have them. I don't know exactly where in South America, but if you're an eclipse chaser, if you're a totality chaser, it'll be there next year. But it was like a little kid. Now my family, they went up to Watertown to see it, and they had a lot more sunshine. But then the clouds, right? Why couldn't the eclipse have been the next day when it was glorious sunshine and a record breaking?
Yeah, it's true. But I thought about it because everybody could agree that the eclipse was there and it was happening. I mean, even the flat earthers, I think you can still have an eclipse on a flat earth. There was no divide in this particular phenomenon. And you really can't say that about many things that occupy, our cultural fascination at this point. So
a lot of people were like, what's the big deal? I had an astronomer on, a physicist on last week. Oh, by the way, my boy Neil deGrasse Tyson is coming back to
Yeah,
Syracuse.
I heard that.
Yeah, he's coming back. But yeah, people were like, well, what's the big deal? I don't know. It was just fun to be a part of that, and have the experience, that collective experience. And like I said, we're all strangers, just all having this collective experience together. And the fact that, all over the country, or the parts of the country that could experience this, they had downtown in the most, they had stuff. I know it was way earlier in the week, and this is almost a week later, but I'm basking in the joy and the glow of that. So, yeah.
Well, I have to agree with you. It was a once in a lifetime event, and I can't help but think about the ancients, the
Hmm.
people who would suddenly see that night fell in the middle of the day, and how would you explain that? As my daughter, who's 30 years old, said, it felt like the end of the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because night fell so swiftly and you didn't understand it. If you didn't know, I looked at pictures to see what it would look like, and people who were like on Lake Ontario said you could see the shadow moving across the waters. So it was good to be in an open
Okay.
place because that way you could see,
Which
the
is why I
shadow.
went up to the park, because
And
I
you were,
feel
you
like
were smart. You were smart,
yeah,
George.
to go up. But like again, it depends upon where you were, because if you look at the picture that Butch got, he got the whole thing. It was a
Mm,
beautiful picture.
mm.
Um, and so Linda Lowen, who's an author, former co-host of mine, she does writing retreats, and she's been popping out these books. So tell me about Secret Syracuse and how this came about.
Well, Secret Syracuse really was a chance to look at our city and to realize that we walk the streets of various neighborhoods and we may not realize the secrets that lie underneath or lie at the other end of the sidewalk or at the end of a driveway. For example, I lived in Eastwood when I was first married and when I was in graduate school at Syracuse University. And I didn't know that in that neighborhood, there are over a dozen houses that can't burn down. They're built of concrete, poured concrete, and so they won't burn down.
Mm. So how do you find these things?
George, you and I have done this in Syracuse for a very long time. And after a while, you just hear stories or people bend your ear. And actually, I was thinking to myself, gee, it's a funny thing that George and I didn't hear about this when we used to host our CNY together. But we're talking a decade and a half now,
It's
maybe.
been, yeah, at
Yeah, it's been a
least,
while. Yeah.
at least.
Yeah. But when you get a chance to talk to people in your community, stories pop up, and a lot of the things that I discovered are sort of word of mouth. And or I remember years ago I stopped into an antique store, and it wasn't even in Syracuse, but I found what looked like aerial trams across Solvay, tall towers carrying these large things. And I was like, what are these? They were actually giant buckets of stone that they took over from Split Rock Quarry to Solvay processing. These buckets were about the size of a grand piano, and they carried tons of stone every single day because that's what the Solvay process was. It was making soda ash. So, there are a lot of things that you grow up with in Syracuse. So you hear, well, there's the Solvay process, the Solvay process. George, what's the Solvay process? Can you
Well,
say it?
I was gonna add.
And,
No, I don't know.
and, and neither could I, very simply, before I started writing this book. So the Solvay process it's the industrial manufacture of soda ash. And soda ash is a chemical that is used in many, many, many things in industry. So the other thing that I found out was Solvay process was created by a Belgian chemist named Ernest Solvay,
His
and
name
it was
was
brought over
Ernest
to Syracuse.
Alve.
Ernest Solvay. And do you know what the original name of Solvay was? The process was so popular and took over the town that they renamed the town for the process. But what is the actual Solvay is in the town of
Geddes.
Geddes. So the original village was called Gettysburg.
Berg?
Geddesburgh. Not
Gettysburg.
Gettysburg, but Gettysburg,
Gettysburg.
right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
Those
And
sorts
then
of things I learned about Syracuse. Yeah.
they renamed
Uh-huh.
Gettysburg Solvay.
Solvay. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. Talking about the Secret Syracuse, a guide to the weird, the wonderful, and obscure. So, what about the house on? That's not weird and obscure anymore, right? The house on the top of Wall Street, the little house. That's not weird and obscure anymore. Did you write about that?
Oh, you mean the one on top of the building?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I also have to say this. This isn't in the same way I tell people 100 things to do in Syracuse before you die. It's not a best of. It's just something that's unique to our community. So yes, that little house has been actually, I heard it was renovated. And by now, because Syracuse.com and other places have covered it, I think it even showed up in the website Atlas Obscura. But that little house actually houses, I think it was at one time, it housed the perhaps the elevator. It was some sort of machinery, and they built a house around it. And of course, everybody thinks it'd be cute to live up there, but that building's since been renovated. A lot of change. I mean, I wrote the book, I did the research for it a couple of years ago, and it came out last fall, but I think a couple of places already are kind of like, uh-oh,
Already, like,
things change.
so when we say the little house on the top of the building, we're talking about on the corner of Wolf Street and
Mhm.
North Salina. I don't know the name of the building though.
You know what? I will find it and tell you. I will find it and tell you.
It's in your you have it in your
I do.
archival.
Of course I have it in my Bible.
I-
Yes.
it's a building just
Where
before
is it?
if you're headed towards Destiny USA or Hiawatha Boulevard, it's a building right on that corner in the city of Syracuse on the north
Here
side.
it is. Here it
Yeah.
is. If you can you see it? Yeah.
Oh, it's in the
Here's
book?
in the book. Yes, of course it's in the book. George,
Oh.
what do you think I am? It's in the book.
I thought you said everybody wrote about it already.
Well, it didn't mean that I wasn't going to. Okay, even though everybody wrote about it, this is still a travel and tourism book.
Okay.
So,
So
you
what's
know,
the name of the building?
what's the name of the building? I just lost the page, George. Just now
You
you're gonna make
you
me look. Oh,
you,
okay.
you
All right. You know this, right? You know what that is.
Yeah, the Hefe, that's the Tin Man
Tin Man,
on Geddes Street. Hold it up
right?
again. I don't think
Well,
we
I'll try to get it again. And then okay. So here's something. There's somebody on the cover. Who's this person? Uh, there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's
I don't
Libba
know.
Cotton. She
Oh, you know what?
Libba Cotton Grove.
But
Oh my goodness.
that's the Cotton Grove. That's the
Yeah,
actual statue that's there.
the actual statue that's there.
So
I mean,
Cotton Grove is on the corner of like East Castle and
you know what? I'm gonna read this to you because this is a particularly good entry.
East Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, I should say. Yeah,
Cotton picking. So there's always a title. It's called Cotton Picking in Syracuse.
right.
What folk musician saw late in life success playing into her 80s? When Syracuse's Reverend Larry Ellis was little, he wondered why old Jesus would visit his grandma's house so often. Only later did he realize to whom he'd given the blasphemous nickname, Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Along with his band, whenever Garcia was in Syracuse, he'd come to pay tribute to Larry's grandmother, folk music legend Libba Elizabeth Cotton. Cotton strummed for John F. Kennedy and wrote Freight Train, her most famous song, at age 11. She inspired Bob Dylan and Peter, Paul, and Mary, recorded her first album at 62, appeared in a book alongside Rosa Parks and Oprah Winfrey on Black women who changed America, won a Grammy when she turned 90, and was recognized as a living treasure by the Smithsonian. Cotton was self-taught on guitar and banjo. She developed her unique style because the banjo she used belonged to her brother, and since she couldn't change the strings, she flipped it upside down to play. Married at 15, she stopped playing because her church discouraged worldly pursuits. Decades later, she started working for the Seeger family, well known for their musicianship, where her talent was rediscovered. She recorded albums, played live concerts, and performed at the Newport Folk Festival and the Smithsonian Festival of American Folklife. In the midst of her fame in 1978, Cotton moved from Washington, D.C. to Syracuse. She chose Syracuse as her home. She continued to record and tour, coming back to a two-story white shingle house on West Ostrander Avenue in her adopted hometown. Though she passed away in 1987 at age 95, recognition continued to come her way. In 2012, a bronze sculpture was unveiled at Live a Cotton Grove on Castle Street, and she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2022.
Wonderful. And didn't she win a Grammy as well?
Yeah.
Or didn't they give her a Grammy? Yeah. And what's the name of the building?
What's the name of the building?
The building down on North Side with the house on top. Stay with me.
You're still all right. Sorry.
We got to answer that question.
All right, but you know what? Aren't these stories of
That's a great story, by the way.
And Black folks?
Live a Cotton is someone who is a living treasure. Is definitely a living treasure.
Now I got it. You're gonna make me crazy with that little house, and now my dogs are crazy too. They're barking. That little house.
They're really excited.
They're very excited. They want the answer. All right, I saw it, George. Hold on. And you know what? We didn't even talk about the tunnels under the city.
Talk to me.
Tunnels under the city. You know, originally in the place between. I can't look at pictures and talk at the same time.
So don't do it. Don't multitask. But before this interview is over, we got to get that house.
You're gonna get that house. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it's called Penfield Manufacturing.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's right there
on the road. Penfield Manufacturing.
Shoot, by the time you found that, somebody could have drove up and called in and gave us that. But anyway,
yes,
so now we're not talking about the Underground Railroad tunnels, are we? Or are we?
No, we're not.
Okay.
And you know, that was another thing, because in the first book that I wrote, 100 Things to Do in Syracuse, I really wanted people to get inside the restaurant that used to be the Mission Restaurant, because it's important to eat at a way station of the Underground Railroad. But you know what? Wrote about that place. The restaurant closed down. I think something new's there though now.
Something new is there. It's
there.
I don't think it has a name, but it has a.
It's happening.
Yeah, it's happening.
Right.
So that we're gonna still think of it as the Mission, because it was a church. It's not the Mission anymore, but there is a restaurant at the corner of East Onondaga. Was that right across the street? Yeah, by the courthaus. Dare I say Columbus Circle? But
no, not Columbus.
Don't say that. Don't say that. Okay.
Cathedral Corner or whatever that is.
Cathedral Corner.
Cathedral Square.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were asking about the tunnels.
Yes.
Tunnels reach from between, I think they go from between the Hotel Syracuse and they go to the On Center. And originally, back when they were building Money Towers, when they were building the Money Towers, that whole section between the Money Towers and the Hotel Syracuse, that was originally envisioned as an underground mall.
Really?
Yeah. But to cut through that rock took weeks, and all they did was drill one tunnel through. So there are underground tunnels, but you can't get to them. They're
you just dated yourself, because they haven't been the Money Towers for about 1 million years.
I know, but you're a long time Syracuse.
One of them is Equitable. I know that. At least one of them is.
So now you would say the Tech Garden, but they changed their names too, right?
Well, the Tech Garden is under renovation right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's pretty cool. So they didn't actually complete the tunnel, so you really can't navigate through there.
No, you can't really. Well, they did complete them. You could go. You could avoid the snow, but that's not open to the public. All right, I'll throw a couple of quick ones at you since they're fascinating, but one of them you really can't see. There is an F-16 fighter pilot. No, he was pulled. There's an F-16 fighter jet at the bottom of Onondaga Lake.
Really?
Yep, crashed because of a snow squall, got disoriented and plunged into the lake. And here's another fascinating fact. Radisson, the community of Radisson with all of its rules and regulations, is built on top of the old New York Ordnance Works. It was a munitions production facility.
Really?
It was the Willy Wonka of armaments. The government bought up land, relocated people, shut down roads. A 41-mile chain link fence was built to enclose the area, and over 1,000 builders went in and built this plant. And they worked 3 shifts, 24/7 during World War II to produce explosives that were mounted on missile heads. And then afterwards, they closed it down. They plowed some of it over. They sold some of it back to the state. And some houses on Radisson property are on top of this buried munitions plant.
Wow.
And
So,
Radisson knows about it. It's on their website. It's part of their history.
but let's go back to the lake for a minute, where you say
Right.
the fighter jet. So we never tried to get it. I mean, this could be like,
They saved the, well, they didn't save the pilot. The pilot passed away. He was a young man,
mhm.
but no,
He
because
lived. He lived.
no, he didn't live. He didn't
He
live.
did not
No,
live.
no.
Okay.
He plunged in at hundreds of miles an hour,
Oh
and
yeah.
all it
Oh,
was a snow squall. You can correct in a car, but you can't correct in a plane.
no.
Yeah.
So why haven't they excavated the plane or whatever they do to get the
Well, what good would it serve? You know, it's already smashed up at the bottom of a lake. Leave it alone. And then, of course, remember that was before the lake was cleaned up. So,
oh
did you want to be dredging up the lake?
so in doing this, what surprised you the most, if anything?
I was surprised at how much, okay, this is what I've told people, because in a weird sense, a lot of the things here, I mean, you can visit a lot of the places that are still here, but the things that really got me interested were the historical details. Like if you picked up this book, and apparently people tell me men love it. It's like a great Father's Day gift because you could win any Syracuse trivia contest because it's sort of Syracuse history light. And the thing that was fascinating to me is I tell people 150 years ago, the way Silicon Valley has its tech bros, we had these tech bros in Syracuse and they were all on like Geddes Street. And we had light rollaway. We had the ball bearings. We had so many factories. We had the Franklin air-cooled car. We had the L.C. Smith typewriter factory. The stuff that came out of Syracuse was extraordinary because a bunch of guys were inventors and they made Syracuse their home base. And the problem is that all these factories were built quickly, but they were never retooled. The business
Ah,
were sold. And then, of course, it's cheaper to build a new factory somewhere in the Midwest or overseas than it is to retool a factory in Syracuse. So we lost all of our industry, and we had so much.
we had a lot, and it provided quite the living for a lot of people. But also, when it closed, it certainly created the Rust Belt, right? Which is what
Yep.
all
Yep.
these industrial cities. But look at what's happening now. I mean, look what's happening now. It's an opportunity that is because that is really really moving the community forward. Can you find the Tin Man again? Because I have a story about
All right.
the Tin Man.
You
Uh,
tell the story.
so the
And
Tin Man, DJ, well, Mr. Heap is Heapy's. They it used to be. It's on Get. Is it still there, or did they got?
no,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
now inside the Onondaga Historical Association.
So the Tin Man was on Geddes Street, where there, which is interesting. You talk about Geddes because there's still a lot of older buildings and manufacturing, older buildings on that street, and it was Heapy's Tin Man Heating Cooling Outfitters, and that Tin Man. When I was in banking a million years ago, Mr. Heapy, one of the descendants of the Heapy company, was a customer of mine in the bank. So it was I that's my connection to the one of the obscure things. But you write about the Tin Man, and what do you write about the Tin Man?
That he was the source of many a nightmare for Syracuse children.
Really,
Oh yeah.
he was
Oh yeah.
scared. They were scared of him.
It literally, okay, I'll read you just a little bit, not all of it, but yeah. Um, it said the original, so I called it the original Iron Man. Whatever happened to the Tin Man that used to be on Geddes Street? Millions only know the fictional Tin Man played by Jack Haley in The Wizard of Oz and have never seen one in real life. But in Syracuse for most of the 20th century, the Hayfie Tin Man was an urban landmark. He stood watch over Geddes Street, where locals either took him for granted or were terrified by him. By the time Ellen B. Edgerton posted online in 1998, "You've lived in Syracuse long enough when the Hayfie Tin Man no longer scares you." He'd finally gotten off the streets, enshrined in dignity and safety in his new museum home. So basically, he was 6 foot tall. One of their workers made him. He had a spinner ventilator head, and it got plowed down constantly by cars.
Because they would,
Take it down
because it wasn't in the street; it was actually on the sidewalk.
Yeah, but if you jump the curb, you could hit the Tin Man. So
Yeah.
finally they reinforced him with cast iron sewer pipes. So if you hit him, you do serious damage to your car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's a fascinating history. What I love about little things like this is, and I know the audience is probably really interested as well, when you get to learn about things that people are experiencing in their hometown. Syracusans love their hometown if they're still living here, right? They love their hometown and they like to hear great stories about their hometown. I told a story, and I'm sure you may have, or you know about the story about the Rite Aid on the corner of Pine and East Genesee Street. Have you heard about this?
No,
Where
this is no.
so the name just popped out of my head. But anyway, on the corner of East Genesee Street and Pine Street was one of Reverend Jermaine Wesley Logan, who was an abolitionist,
Right.
and that property, where that property stands, was his home, and his home was one of the places where people who were enslaved were put kept for safety, right? And it was we call it a way station, right? It was a way station on the railroad, and for many that don't know, you combine that with the Jerry Rescue, which Reverend Jermaine Wesley Logan was a part of. That property, which was bulldozed, and people didn't realize the what it was, but that property bulldozed now is a closed Rite Aid, and my good buddy Dr. Rick Wright is lobbying for that property to become a sort of a center for abolitionism, or the study and teaching of it, similar to what they're doing in Peterborough, up in, not similar to, but the fact that they're doing it, heaven on earth.
Heaven on earth.
You got, yeah, Peterborough, right?
I got Peterborough in there. I've got Peterborough. I've got Jerry Rescue, which was really the first Black Lives Matter. And you know what? That was truly, Black folks, white folks together.
Right. And so let's talk. So you went too quick when you talked about Peterborough in Canastota, where they have an abolitionist museum.
Hall of Fame, yeah.
Hall of Fame, yes, a Hall of Fame. And obviously the Jerry Rescue, which occurred October 1st, 1851, I believe, is the date of that. And there's a monument in Clinton Square. It's either 1850 or 1851. Get it right, George. But there's a monument in Clinton Square. When I was on the work for City Hall, Linda, I was a part of the other way. No, down. You got it right in front of your face. You got to hold it. Cover your face. Down. There it is. No, right there. Right there. Actually, it's pretty good. But that's the Jerry Rescue, which is right in downtown Syracuse, in Clinton Square. And back, by the way, when Mayor Tom Young was the mayor at the time, and Sharon Booman was commissioned to create the sculpture, and she was from Central Square, and the symbolism of they have Reverend Jermaine Wesley Logan, and I believe it's Samuel May, who may or may not have been at the actual rescue. However, it was symbolic, right? Those two individuals were symbolic of what was going on at the time. But I can tell you a little known Black history fact about that sculpture. You ready? The original design had Jerry chained.
Yes.
And the committee,
Yeah.
the committee said, we want Jerry unshackled,
Good.
right? And that's so, and the artist received that, and Jerry is unshackled. Still has shackles on, but unshackled, but not shackled. So our little committee is a part of the Syracuse history, and it's a beautiful thing. And there's so many things in this community. What's one of the weirdest things that you found in your search for the weird, obscure, and the wonderful? All right, so this is what you had to do as we come to wherever we are in this conversation. I had so much fun. Give me the most wonderful, the most obscure, and the most weird, if you haven't already.
Okay, so the most wonderful. I think so. If you drove up to Mexico Point State Park, there is a place up there called Casey's Cottage. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Was the carriage house of an old resort. And in the 1930s, a man who used to be a Syracuse University professor but ended up at Columbia, he had the money and he worked with a designer for Sirocco that made the plastic wood decorative pieces. They got together and they built, they didn't build it. They took the carriage house apart and remade it into an old English manor house. So it's sort of like a medieval man cave. It's got stained glass. It's got carvings on the walls. It's got a table and a great hall with a fireplace. You can go visit that in the summer. And it's like you're walking into a little piece of Canterbury Tales, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales.
Mexico Point State Park?
Mexico Point State Park. Yep. In
I never
Mexico.
heard of that either.
Yeah, well, now so look up Casey's Cottage. So that was a weird thing that's still
Weird or wonderful? You said it was wonderful.
well, you know what? I'm going to call it weird.
Okay.
And I'm going to say wonderful is that Syracuse actually had the world's most beautiful nightclub. Let me see if I can find it. It was so long story short, I had to try to purchase pictures that I wanted to use because you have to have release forms. So the one picture that I was able to afford from the OHA is this place. Look at that.
Oh, that's
That was
fabulous. Hold it steady. Hold it steady.
all right. That was
Wow, that's
Syracuse's
so
most beautiful.
fabulous.
It is fabulous. It was called the Cafe DeWitt, and and it was opened by the Playboy son of the Alexander Brown, who was Syracuse's wacky and millionaire, and his house still stands. That's another thing in this book. But this guy wanted to have a club in Syracuse, so he opened it up. And it opened, unfortunately, during Prohibition at the height of the Depression. 600 people packed it on its opening night. 500 people waited outside. It had no exterior windows.
Oh.
No, and it had an incredible light show inside. This was back in 1931. But and it was built in about 5 months to the cost of what would be today 27 million. And it went into receivership in 4 months. So basically went out of business. And 8 years later, it was torn down. If you go downtown, I think there used to be the Hess gas station, like Water Street. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, right over there. Okay.
Right over there. So that
Yeah, I
was
think it's mobile now, or
that was
something,
wonderful.
or
So
Safeway or something. Not
weird,
Safeway,
wonderful, and
Speedway.
obscure. Oh, obscure. Lincoln's hair. Look at that. The hairy eagle has landed. Lincoln's hair was made into an eagle, and that it's actually sculpted out of hair from Lincoln's beard and his head and his
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln, and it's in the collections at the Onondaga Historical Association. But it's so fragile, nobody can see it. But there was an article in the Smithsonian about it, written by a man named Jason Emerson, a local writer. So yeah, there's a hairy eagle. That's what it's called. It's sculpted out of Lincoln's hair and his Lincoln's cabinet's hair. All these bits and pieces that were trimmings from barbers that were sent in envelopes to a person who put this together. That's pretty obscure.
All right, you got some news to share.
Yeah, I do have some news to share. The third Syracuse book is going to come out next year, and
And
it's
what's
called Unique Eats and Eateries. So you're going to tell me where you like to dine, George?
Yes, I am gonna tell you. I've got some spots for you. Unique
All right.
eats and eating. Now, what makes it unique? So it can't be the same old, or what?
Well, obviously, it's not going to be a chain. Sorry, Chick-fil-A and Syracuse. But, it's
Okay, let
probably,
me ask you this:
yeah,
does dinosaur count as a chain? Since
no,
it was
because
w-
it originated in
it was born here. Not that you're gonna write about dinosaur, but I'm just asking for
No,
it.
you know what? Of course, I have to write about dinosaurs, even though it was in the first book. All right, so you know what inspired me? What really got me excited about this book? In Eastwood, on a small corner, a young woman opened up a store called the Curd Nerd, and last year she was voted America's best top cheesemonger.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
And so you
You
said,
know,
"Hey, wait a minute. What else do we have here that
and
might?"
well, we have Habiba's Ethiopian restaurant, and she
Yes,
was
we
on the
do.
north side, and now she's moved over to Salt City Market, right?
Make sure Miss Prissy's makes the list.
Yeah, yeah.
she's
Okay.
she's gonna open up downtown soon.
Okay.
Because she moved out of the market,
She did move out,
and
right.
yeah, she did. She moved out of the market to do her own standalone, just like Cake Bar did, and a couple of other.
Well,
Although
that
I
was the
think,
purpose. That was the purpose of them. They were incubators so that these folks would go on their own. So,
yeah, and it's just a great thing. Salt City Market, and that is a very interesting
mhm.
thing uh, that the Allen folk have put together. Linda, you got some good stuff going on. You're writing and you're lecturing. You're doing some good stuff. What's motivating you these days?
Community.
Talk to me. Say more about that.
You and I had a terrific opportunity in which we were doing a show together, and I'll never forget one of the producers of our CNY said to me once, he said, the goal of the show is to put our friends and neighbors on the air. He said, eventually you'll probably talk to almost everyone in Onondaga County, and you'll get to know them and you'll get to know their stories. And that's what really matters, learning about your community, giving voice to people who might not otherwise have voices. And that was Max Carroll. Remember Max Carroll?
Oh yeah, I get a Christmas card from Max every year. Hey Max, thank you for the card. By the way, I should actually send you one back, right? But anyway,
Probably should. So when he said that, it made me realize that that's what my job is. And I used to call myself a writing instructor. But now when somebody asks me what's my purpose is to create, nurture, and support circles and communities of people to tell their stories. And that's why I write the Syracuse books, because I get to amplify the voices of people who are providers and creators in our community. And we have such a terrific community in terms of innovation, in terms of enthusiasm, in terms of giving back. A lot of folks have dreams and they realize them, and they do that here. I mean, look at you. You amplify that every single week, right?
listen, we try. Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about it. Do you run into people at Wegmans that remember you from the show? Now you had a whole different look back in the day.
They say they remember my voice.
Oh, because of the yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Weren't you on? Because you also did the
Yep.
radio too
Yep.
with um with Lorraine Rapp.
Rap. Yep.
Yeah, back in the day. And then you and I did the show. How long did we do the show together?
I think we did it for 17 months.
17 months.
The
Okay.
best 17 months of my life.
Linda was so smart. We were Gail and Charles before there was Gail and Charles, right? That's
Oh, oh, right. And you know what? You weren't, well, we won't go into that one. We won't go into Charlie Rose. You were an upright man, and you still are.
I
Still,
appreciate that.
nobody's going to take my GK down. And if they do, I'll come after them.
Listen, okay, with the sword, baby. All right, get the book. It's called Secret Syracuse, A Guide to the Wonderful, Weird, and Obscure. And we talked about a few of the little gems in the book, and it's fun. I mean, it's fun to share with folks, especially folks that have grew up here, who so many of whom are returning home, and it's a great way. And let's look for the Unique Eats and Eateries book coming out. When is it? Next year, probably.
Probably going to come out in the fall of
Oh, the
20.
fall. Oh, you
Fall of
that bad? Okay, go ahead. All right.
I crank them out, George.
There you go. There you go. Linda writes, and look for her stuff. She does some stuff at the Writer Center. She does some stuff on her own. Look her up. What's your website, Linda, for people to find you?
They can find me at lindalowen.com.
Very good.
LINDALOWEN.com.
LindaLowen.com. Our good friend, Linda Lowen, here on Inspiration for the Nation. Get her book, Secret Syracuse, a guide to the weird, the wonderful, and obscure, here on Inspiration for the Nation.